All right, what is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Pedal Down 4x4. And on this video series, we're long traveling the 4Runner. Okay, so we are going to start working on the 4Runner. I just got off of work. I do have to go to my second job soon. So we're going to start taking everything off. So the first step is we're going to pull the tires off. We need to pull off all the suspension bits, and we actually need to drop the diff. And the reason why we're dropping the diff is because on the Tacoma, we actually took off the we took out the 488s and we put that on the side, and I actually put the 488 in the rear axle of the 4Runner, just to make it more drivable. And for the front, it's still running the 529s. It also has a pinion issue, which I'm assuming is a bad bearing. But we're gonna pull that out and swap it with the Tacoma diff because the Tacoma front diff is already a 488. But first steps first is we're gonna take everything off the front end. I'm probably gonna throw you guys on a little bit of a time lapse here, and we're gonna just rip everything off. Okay, so you can see that I tore everything off. Lower control armor's out with the ball joint so attached. I'm gonna just take that off on the table. It's easier. Then I have the spindle over there, the coilover, the upper control arm, and we got everything in here hanging. So we got the brake caliper hanging, the tie rod just kind of chilling over there. So is the CV axle. And then yeah, this is where we're at this current point in time. I will say that it was a bit of a pain in the ass to get the long control arm bolt out because of the V8 swap. The AC lines were in the way, so that took a little bit of bending and forcefully getting that guy out. But yeah, this is where we're at so far. I'm gonna wait to pull the CV out just because I don't want oil to go all over the floor, and then the tie rod and the brake caliper will stay there. All right, so that is basically everything done on this side of the 4Runner. We got all the bits out. The main piece we need for this next thing is actually we don't even need this. Interesting. The reason why I say we don't need that is because I actually have a spare spindle on the side, and I thought there'd be wheel speed sensors. I'm not 100% sure if, yeah, the other side doesn't have the wheel speed sensors, so I don't know how the ABS is working. But I mean, that makes it a lot easier for me. So anyway, coilover's out. We're gonna put that up for sale. Upper control armor's out. Put that up for sale. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the passenger side. I'm gonna do that off camera. I need to charge the battery in this camera. Actually, it's about to die. But yeah, once everything is out, I'll get back to you guys, and we'll continue on. All right, what is going on, you guys? So it's the next day. Ran out of time yesterday because I had to go to work, but I just pulled out the CV axles out of the 4Runner, and now we're gonna get into dropping the diff. Okay, so just pulled out the, oh, sorry. All right, so we just pulled out the front diff out of the 4Runner. It was a little bit more of a pain in the ass. Everything was kind of slippery, and also trying to record at the same time was a little weird, a little funky. But yeah, front diff is out. Everything else is out on the truck. So what I'm gonna do, not on maybe this episode or whatever, I'm gonna be kind of grinding down the frame just to clean it up because it is pretty rusty. It's not too bad, but I'd like to clean up a little bit of this stuff before it gets to the point where it's really bad. So there's our 529 differential right here. So she has a hurt pinion in there, but she also has a front locker. This is the 488 front diff out of the Tacoma before we did the straight axle swap. So we're going to be putting this front diff into the 4Runner, but I have to modify this a little bit because of the electronics. The ADD does not work, and I could fix it, but I really do not care to fix it. So we're going to modify this front diff to have the ADD basically locked in so it's always spinning. We are going from manual to auto hubs because of the long travel kit. So we're going to convert this and we're going to make this locked all the time. And then we don't actually have to have any of these nipple things hooked up. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead, set you guys on a tripod, and I'm going to show you guys how to modify this front diff to be always locked. All right, so this is our front diff. This is our 488 front diff out of the Tacoma. Now, if you have a first gen Tacoma, third gen 4Runner, even the second gens and Tacomas and whatnot, they have this thing right here, and this is an ADD tube, which is a auto disconnect differential, I believe is what it is called. But what it's basically is, there's a little shaft in here that disconnects this shaft from the diff. So when you go into full drive, the issue with that is if this isn't working, it's going to just be spinning in here unless you have a locker. So the way I got around this on the 4Runner when we did the swap is it already had a lunchbox locker in the front diff. So it was always turning anyway, so it didn't really matter. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to modify this to make it always be locked. So this shaft is always locked into the diff. So when we go into full drive will actually work. It'll still work as a traditional differential where if this side is bound up and stuck, this free side will spin. It'll still act as open diff, but now the shaft will actually be connected. So let's take this off and I'll show you guys what I mean. Okay, so got our impact here. We're going to just zap this guy off. Okay. Now, yes, you do need to reseal your diff after this. These guys. Okay. Give her a couple taps. Now this guy will come out. Now there's a fork in here, so you guys can see this fork. Not sure if you can see that on the camera, but there's this fork. So what happens is the electrical signal will go in here, or not in here, but inside the full drive in the fender well, and it'll actuate these vacuum tubes, and that's going to either suck in like this. So this is going to be your tool drive, full drive, or not tool drive, full drive, but this will be engage, disengage, engage, disengage. All right, so this is inside of the ADD actuator. Right here, you can see the disconnect, how this slides back and forth. So that's disconnected right now. So if I'm going to spin this, nothing happens. And that's because it's not engaging anything. So if I engage it onto the teeth, you can see the teeth right there. If I just engage it on the teeth, now you'll notice it turns. Now, if I put pressure on this one side, you can see it'll turn the other way, and that's because it's going to act as a open differential. If it was a if there was a locker in here, then they would both spin the same way, but that's engaged. So when we have this actuator on like this, we're gonna want this piece to be like this. Okay, so now that this, I have this in the position of where the differential is locked. So right now it turns and this guy will actually slide in over that guy like so, and it's locked. So that's the position I do want this guy in. So very easy to do. All right, so this is kind of ghetto, but I mean, let's be honest here. Half the stuff we do on this channel is ghetto. This is a hose clamp. We're gonna hose clamp this shaft so it cannot move. And then it's just locked in like that forever. Nope. I want that screw. Now we're gonna slide that hose clamp in like that. So now that the hose clamp is in there, we need to pinch it together. So I've done this to another diff before in the past because the ADD wasn't working and they couldn't get the vehicle in full drive. Now, do I recommend this? Do I say, hey, you should do this to your differential, blah, blah, blah? Of course not. I would never recommend doing something like this to your differential. But, you know, if it works, it works. That's this kind of deal that we're on right now. All right, so you guys can see that hose clamp in there. Now, she can still move this way, but she can no longer move left or right. So she is locked all the time. Now, if I zoom you guys in right here, just like that, we got full drive all the time. And if you spin this side, but now we don't have to worry about the ADD. That is defeated. The ADD system is done. So now we're gonna I'm gonna reseal this whole thing, and we're gonna put it back on here. I did use red Loctite in there, so it's not gonna come off. But there's no movement that this clamp can do, and this is not gonna cause you any kind of issues in the future. So we'll be good. I'm gonna go ahead, brake clean this guy off, scuff up the surface, and we're gonna go ahead and put that back on, and our front diff is good to put back in. Alright, so that is basically how to lock out a ADD actuator on a front differential. Now, she's basically, whenever the tire's spinning, front drive shaft is going to spin, but the transfer case being a J shift, I can put it into a drive and she'll be just fine. This truck does not have a center locker. But that's how you lock it out. It's a very simple, easy fix. A lot of guys, when they complain about this, the reason why Toyota did it, I guess, is because they think it's going to increase your fuel mileage because you're no longer turning these components. But, I mean, it's going to be very negligible, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. But, yeah, so a few other things. I capped off these vacuum connectors here. I left this sensor plugged in, so that doesn't matter. These don't matter anymore. The only thing you do want to do is your breather port here. Make sure you run an extended breather, which I think I know why the front pinion on the other differential failed. Off camera, I did drain it to speed up the video process, and there was a shit ton of water that came out, and I looked at the breather, and I did not relocate the breather. The breather tube was like that long, and there's been a few times where the 4Runner has been in water that was headlight deep to almost my window, my front windows, the depth. So this front diff was definitely submerged underwater, which it did take in water. So on this build, I'm definitely going to be extending out this breather and using one of those breather filter covers that I showed to you guys in the SAS video. It turns out that's not actually lawnmower filters; those are carburetor filters, I guess, whatever. But the next thing we are going to do is I'm going to let this RTV sit. Once it sits for about an hour, then I can go ahead and tighten up these bolts here. And then after that, I'm going to pull this old CV cups out and get this front differential back into the 4Runner. In the meantime, I'm going to start cleaning up the frame of the 4Runner because the frame's a little nasty. I'm going to clean that up and I'm going to repaint it. I've had a lot of people ask me what I use to paint the frame or paint stuff, and usually what I do is I use some sort of rust converter first, like a OSFO, and then I follow that up with a zinc primer of some sort, and then I just coat the frame in this stuff right here. And this is from Ace Hardware, but this is just rust stop, oil base, and ammo. It's black. It does the job just fine, and it doesn't. Pour 15 for some reason will trap the water, and this doesn't. So I've had really good luck with this stuff. It's cheaper anyway, so that's great. But yeah, I'm gonna let this silicone cure up. I'm gonna start grinding up the frame. Probably throw you guys up on a time lapse. We're not gonna go all out. Reality is the 4Runner's frame is really, really bad, especially toward the back part of the frame. I do plan on buying a different 4Runner and swapping all the good parts either on that 4Runner or swapping the frame. So yeah, that's how that's gonna go. So I'm not super concerned. I just want to clean it up just to give it a little bit of a birthday and to try and preserve the frame for as long as I can with the least amount of effort. So yeah, I'm gonna start grinding up the frame or wire brushing the frame. Let this cure up, zap the bolts in, pull the CVs out, and get this guy back in the truck. Okay, so I sprayed on some of this Loctite rust neutralizer. It does require 2 light coats as well as 24 hours top coating. So I'm gonna let this dry for about 10 minutes, spray it again, and then I'm gonna do the other side. I'm gonna do that side off camera, and then after we're done with that other side and we get this stuff on, I'm gonna go put the diff in, and then I think that'll be this episode. All right, so we are pretty much done for today. I gotta get going to work. I have to get ready for my second job, but we got the old diff out, the 529 with the fucked up pinion, and we have the new to the 4Runner Tacoma's 488 front diff in. I still need to pull the CV cups off, and then I am gonna modify the drain bung to a socket, because if you've ever taken off the drain bung off of these vehicles before, they can be a bit of a pain because they're a hex socket and they like to strip out. But 488's in. The frame currently is drying with the rust neutralizer on, and then when I get tomorrow, I'll begin to paint that up, and then once that is done, then we can start putting on the lower control arms and stuff like that. We also have to build the front spindles, but I'm currently waiting on my wheel bearings. So instead of doing all of that stuff, we might as well start getting into the fenders. The front fenders for this is basically a bolt-on fit from McNeil Racing, but we are going to have to modify the passenger side because of the snorkel. I'm actually hoping that fender will cover the snorkel and I only have to cut out right here, but it doesn't really matter how much we cut off because it is fiberglass. I can modify it however I please. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we're going to paint this up, and then that will be the end of this episode. All right, so I just got done painting pretty much this portion of the frame. I'm not painting the whole frame. I'm not going through that effort with this thing, honestly. But yeah, threw on some paint, so we're gonna have to let that dry for the next day or so. And then we also painted this side of the frame as well. So you can see there's some paint on there. There's a run right there, which is awesome. But yeah, so that's gonna seal up all of these bits. That was my main concern. Is oh, damn it. My main concern was these parts, just because that's parts I kind of grinded clean or wire wheeled clean and put some of that rust off. I just painted the rest because it would look kind of funky if I painted over here. Painted over some dirt and whatnot, but yeah, she's all painted up and we are ready to go. I'm still waiting on some parts. So I think on next week's episode we might get into putting the fenders on. All right, you guys. So that is pretty much gonna wrap it up for this episode of the long travel build on the 4Runner. Got all the old suspension bits off. We cleaned the frame up. We put some of that rust stuff on it, and then we painted it black with some of that just universal black paint. I think for the next week's episode, I think we're gonna get into the fenders. Just because I don't have the wheel bearings for the spindle stuff yet, and I want to do all of that one time. It is not a super involved process, but we have gussets and all that other stuff. So I like to make that all one video. So I think the next video you guys are gonna see is we're gonna put the fenders on. Maybe not this side. We're probably gonna put the driver's side fender on, and we'll start modifying the passenger side fender on. All right, you guys. So that is pretty much gonna be it for this week's episode of Pedal Down 4x4 on the long travel build on my 3rd gen 4Runner. As always, thanks for watching.